G'day legends, welcome back to another video. In this one I've got a hot water system to install in the caravan. Our caravan is a pretty basic one, didn't have hot water. It has water but not hot water, so there's tossed up a few different options, but I'm actually going with a 12 volt and 240 volt one, so no gas. The main reason I did that was I was keen to do it myself, and if you're doing it with gas, you really should have you need to have a licensed plumber or whatever to do your gas. With this one, it just plugs into your 240 volt, and then obviously 12 volt we can do ourselves. I do have a few extra bits. So this is, I should say, this unit is from AusJ. I think Australian designed. They've sold a fair few of them. I couldn't find a whole heap of information online, but those that did install it found it to be pretty good, like good insulating properties, so your hot water will last into the morning after, once you heat it. It's 300 watts on 12 volts, so I think it's something like 25 amps, so it pulls quite a bit of current. And then more on 240 volts. I think it's 100 watts, 1,000 watts or something like that. So it heats up really quick on 240 volts. On 12 volts, I think, less than an hour, but up near an hour. I also got a controller for it that I'll put up in the top cupboard with the rest of the controllers. And I got an outdoor shower also by AusJ. I'll show you this. This is pretty neat. Because basically because of the physical size that you need to use on the side of your van. It's pretty cool. So a couple of other things. This unit is pretty small. 10 litres is all it is. It'll probably be good enough for like a couple of showers by the time it's mixed, maybe 20 litres of warm water, and also for doing our dishes and stuff. I guess the downside to this is that it is a fixed capacity. So if you had like an instant instant gas hot water, basically you've got unlimited hot water until your gas runs out. This is not like that. Physically, the size of it is probably pretty small. We're going to chuck it under the bunk in a space that really can't be used by anything else, and we never use it, so we're not going to lose any space. It will hold 10 litres of water, so I guess there's some weight that you might need to think about, and I think it might be something like 15 kilograms when it's full or something like that. So maybe instant hot water systems would be less weight. Obviously you can't use all of the 10 litres in this. You'll put 10 litres in. You'll put water in, and whatever you put in will come out as hot water. So you're always going to have pretty much 10 litres in this hot water system. Yeah, I think that's about it. Let's open up the box and have a look what's in here. So this is pretty much how it came. I have opened it, just have a quick look. But you've got your pressure relief valve, which will install, I believe it goes on the cold water down the bottom, so we'll put that on. A bunch of fittings, a couple of mounting brackets. I'll show you those in a minute. They go underneath and it just simply bolts to it. And then it's pretty much just the unit itself, which is obviously, like I said before, 240 volt plug. It doesn't require an electrician because you just plug this in. And obviously the current that goes through this is fine for a regular 240 volt plug. And this is the unit itself. Now, I don't know, when I first saw it, I was a bit, is it cheap and plasticky? But this, I don't know if you can hear that, it's really, hard made plastic, and I believe it's, foam insulated, so it really, keeps the water, the temperature that you set it to. Like, you don't need lots of heat to maintain it. It's well insulated. Let's get it out and have a quick look at it. So we've got the unit out the box. Pretty basic. It's just got one 240 volt cable like I showed before. It's got the 12 volt switch. Now I believe this basically allows you to switch it on and off, and then you've got your main 12 volt cable, so a positive and a negative. On the side here you have hot water out, cold water in, a switch to switch on and off 240 volts. Up and down, I believe this just is the controls for the 12 volt. It's got kind of inside, it's got two separate elements, a 12 volt one and then a 240 volt one, and they are run kind of almost separately. So this switch is for the 240, this control is for the 12 volt, and this temperature control on the side is for the 240 volt. Other than that, I believe it needs to be mounted this way. You must mount it the way that it's specified. Obviously, reasons for that is like you're not going to have a full tank if you're not pulling it from the right spot in the tank. And I think one more thing I should show is you can mount it like onto a wall like that way, or underneath, base mount it, which is what we'll be doing. So let's have a look at the space where we're going to be working with. It'll actually be under this bunk here. You can see the drawers come out, but there's a space in the corner there which we can't use. So I'll pull the mattress out and we'll get access to that space and see how it fits. So as you can see now with the mattress out, that's the spot. Yeah, basically it's useless. You've got to take the mattress out to get to it. You can only get through this little tiny hole to get to it. The other reason I picked this spot is because we want hot water at the sink, and the sink is there, so it's not too far. And then I'm going to put an outside shower on this side, so it's kind of midway between. So kind of worked out well. Hopefully it fits. I'll put it in there and see how we go. So it fits pretty perfectly in there. I might move it all the way up against that wall and allow myself enough space for the pipes over here, but I think that will work pretty well. So I might first try and suss out where we can get this 240 volt cord, and then the 12 volt will go to the back behind the fridge, where there's the 12 volt for the fridge already there, and it's quite a big wire. I upgraded that before, so should be all good. They've got nice warnings everywhere, making sure that you install things correctly. So that's the bracket. I'll just pop it in, and then we might be able to mark that out and drill the holes for the screws and get it mounted in. So I'll just put a bit of thread sealant in here. Coming out very slowly. I'm not putting heaps in, but it's coming out slow. So we'll screw that on. I'll just make sure, I'm pretty sure that needs to be on the top. Alrighty, so we got the pressure relief valve on. I'm then going to have two elbows like this that point at the floor, and it will just basically go straight through the floor of the van. I might try and offset that one a bit somehow, maybe around the side. But we might have to get this in first, and then I'll put these on and seal them up. They're just push lock fittings for the kind of nylon hose, so we'll get to that. I think I'm pretty much ready to put it in. I at least want to see where these line up so I can drill the holes in the right spot in the bottom of the van for these. So let's put it back in and screw it down. So I'm just going to put these, it's a bit hard to film down here, but I'm just going to put these screws in now. there's eight screws that go in, so I'll put those in, and then we can start measuring up for where we have to drill through the whole floor over here, and then we'll run the wires. I've actually drilled a little hole there. It'll go through to the back where there's 240 volt for the fridge, so it's pretty easy, that part. The 12 volt I think is there as well, so that's all good. And then I'll have to run the wires for the controller as well. So we've got a little bit to do still. I'll get this in, screw this down, and then we can work out those other ones. So what we're using for the hose is this PEX hose, and these fittings called, I think John Guest they're called, the type of fittings. The pipe comes in different colours. I think you can get black as well. I've used red where I can for hot, blue for the cold. And basically they just push into these fittings like that and then lock in. It's that easy. For the hot water ones, what they recommend is that you put in these, they're like little inserts to stop the hose collapsing. So you put those in and then put this on. You can also get these locks. So what the locks do is, so you can release them by pushing this in like that. So these locks just sit in that gap there and make it so that they're not able to be released. You can't pull that off. I've done most of them with these locks. You can obviously remove the lock when you need to and pull them off. And then there's a cover that goes on to stop that happening on the road. I'll take you under the caravan and just show you a bit the layout of the hose setup now, and yeah, see if we can make sense of that. It's a bit tricky to, it'll be a bit tricky to explain, but let's go and have a look at that. So under here, actually the chassis rail sits here, so I couldn't go under the floor. So what I've done is brought it back through a hole in the floor there. We've also got the overflow that comes out of that valve and goes down through the floor there. The pressure relief valve there, and I'll jump underneath and show you how the hoses are run underneath as well. But yeah, it's pretty basic in here. We've pressure tested it and there's no leaks, so that's all good. So here under the van, basically what used to happen is, this is out of the pump here. I don't know why the caravan manufacturer used red hose, but it did. And that was the cold water that went across there to the tap and up to the tap. So what I've done is teed into that. The cold water runs back here and up to the, that's to the heater there. And then it's teed off and takes the cold water over to this side for the shower. Out of the heater comes the hot water. The hot water goes up, and I did a join there, up to the tap, and you get hot water at the tap, and then it's teed and it goes back over here to the shower as well, so you get hot water at the shower. The only other little thing that you need to do is you need to put a one-way valve on the cold side so that you know, your hot water's not going back. And then the only other thing I did is this blue hose that goes all the way to the front is the mains pressure, so that's why it's also teed into this kind of feed line, if you like, and that also needs a one-way valve in it, and I'll put that up that end. Other than that, that's all you need. I might try and do a bit of a diagram so that you can see how this is set up, but it's pretty straightforward once you get into it. So we're currently off grid, and I'll just show you how this works. This is on 12 volt. When you're on 12 volt, you can, you know, set the temperature and it will chase the temperature. Uses as expected just over 20 amps, and it heats up reasonably quickly. It's probably an hour-ish, you know, to the 55 degrees. When you plug it into 240 volts, you can't control it with this. Obviously the control doesn't make sense, and this goes off and it automatically switches to the 240 volts and it heats up really quickly on 240 volts. And you can only set the temperature on the unit, so that's kind of I guess one of the downsides, but I think once you've got it set on 240 volts, you leave it there anyway. So yeah, the switch just works. So I've installed a switch down under here, and if I switch it off, it'll go off here, and it stops, it stops heating the water. And I kind of use it in the middle of the day when my solar's, when the batteries are full and the solar's pumping in. That's when I let it heat up, and it's good enough for your nightly washing up, a couple of showers. The other night we had a couple of showers and washing up, and it kind of kept up all right with that. I've got 300 watts of solar on the roof, so not massive solar system either. So yeah, it's a pretty good product. I'll do a kind of follow up in 6 months or so. We've only been using this a couple of times, so yeah, once we've had a little bit of use out of it, I'll do a follow up. But so far so good, and as you saw, it was pretty easy to install as well. Anyway, that's it for this one. Thanks everyone.